Hello, hello, my friends. Hello, DLD friends. Welcome to our 27th DLD Sync show. It's amazing. Thank you for being with us for such a long time. It's almost a year we started this new format, and somehow it's successful, and you're part of it. Thank you. Thank you. Today we have an amazing new topic at the Sync, and a topic which will follow us, but I'm sure the next years. It's on Europe. Who of you, my friends, would call himself, herself, an Europe activist? Who of you is engaged for the fabulous vision of Europe? Who is doing something that Europe gets closer, gets more innovative, more interesting, more together? I'm not sure if every one of you raises hand. I want to change this. Today we talk about a bold vision, the idea of the new European Bauhaus. The new European Bauhaus. Think of it. In case you haven't seen the DLD All-Star event a month ago, where Commissioner von der Leyen talked about this initiative. But not only she, this amazing philosopher, climate activist, doer, thinker, he mentioned climate change in the early 70s. John Schellenhuber, he spoke also at DLD All-Stars about it. Bjarke Ingels, this architect activist, spoke about the Bauhaus. Maria Gabriel, commissioner for innovation in Europe, spoke about it. And Hans Ulrich, the amazing art connector, always on the intersection of technology, business, art, a whirlwind of making connections. They all spoke about this new European Bauhaus. So what it is it? It's described by President von der Leyen, by Commissioner President von der Leyen, as a creative and interdisciplinary initiative that drives the green transformation of our continent. The green, very necessary green transformation of our continent. In order to build a future that is sustainable, inclusive, and beautiful. Yes, beautiful. It's important. Beautiful. The new European Bauhaus sets out to support and facilitate innovations at the crossroad of science, technology, business, and art. It could be a wonderful vision, and it's really, really necessary. Of course, it sounds a bit vague, what I just said. How can we turn a vision into reality? To talk about the questions, to begin the conversation about a stronger conversation about the sustainable future of Europe, we invited two experts and friends with an outstanding track record of fostering innovation and creativity, actively getting things on the road. They are doers, not talkers. Please welcome two friends of DLD, Francesca Bria. She is the president of the newly created Italian National Innovation Fund and member of the new European Bauhaus High-Level Roundtable. She will explain what it is later. Francesca is also an honorary professor at the University College of London, a member of the European Commission High-Level Expert Group on Economic and Societal Impact of Research and Innovation, and she was the former chief digital technology of the city of Barcelona. Francesca is amazingly smart. You will see it in a minute. She's not only smart, she has humor, she is pretty. She is a perfect example for the new Europeans, for the active engagements, engaged friends of Europe. Imagine, my friends, getting 27 countries under one umbrella of a vision, of a bold vision. What a task. And I'm so happy that Helmut Schönenberger, my good friend Helmut Schönenberger, the CEO of Unternehmertum, Europe's largest and highly successful entrepreneur center, is also with us. He is also joining this vision. He's a visionary. He, probably you know all. He brought Flixbus, Lilium, Celonis, many more unicorns out of the cradle of Unternehmertum into reality. So why shouldn't these two persons bring the visions of a European Bauhaus, of the new European Bauhaus, also from a small cradle, from a bold vision into reality? So, my friends, the floor is yours. What brought you to Europe? Francesca.
Right. Hello, Steffi, and hi, everyone. It's really great to be here. And this topic is obviously really inspiring. So for me, there is a first big issue, that is why we are doing this project now. So why this is the right moment to project a forward-looking radical vision of sustainable Europe, which is going to be carbon neutral, that's going to be more inclusive and more democratic. And I think we do need at the moment to have pragmatic but really radical ideas that will get us out of the multiple crises that we are living in. And of course, one is a big crisis, one of the biggest crises in living memory, which is the health crisis and the pandemic, but also the relationship of the health crisis and our relationship with nature, and the ecological collapse and the climate crisis, which is very strong. And this relationship between us and nature is extremely unbalanced at the moment. And I believe that crises, being pandemics, wars, or moments of big troubles for humanity, can fuel social imagination. So can help us think in big ways, and can help us also, I think, giving a direction to the big transitions we are living. On one side, the green transition, so the need to decarbonize the economy, to transition to a renewable energy-based society and to a net zero world, and the digital transition. And how do we make the digital transition more democratic, more inclusive? So I think, obviously, President von der Leyen said that the climate transition needs its own aesthetic, which is sustainability, style, inclusiveness. She effectively talks about beauty. But I also think, one real point about this project is making the cultural and social dimension of innovation and of the green transition very strong. And this can be a European touch to innovation, and which I think we can discuss, Helmut, later, because I really believe that this question of what is the European touch to innovation, what it means innovation for Europe, what it means for our culture, for our history, and for our future, and how do we make the digital more European, in a sense. I think it's going to be an important conversation. But I also think that digitization and the green transition, they pose very big challenges in themselves, very big challenges of our times, and can only be tackled through an interdisciplinary manner. So bringing together, so increasing the collaboration between arts, design, technology, and science. And I think this bringing back the tradition of the Bauhaus, with the Bauhaus movement in the modernist era in the 1920s and 30s, we saw the science of ecology and design kind of merging and laying the foundation for modernist architecture. And I think we have a lot to learn about this historical experience, but also we need to make this historical experience real today. which means understanding what it means at the moment and also what needs to be changed, of course, from the original Bauhaus. One important element is the question of an education method. I mean, a school that is not a building, but that is a school that is really about changing the pedagogical approach and the educational method. And I think education is going to be very strong in what we want to put forward. I think another element that is going to be maybe two things I want to mention of how I see it a bit different today. First of all, is that we are gonna try, so Steffi was asking what it is. And I think we actually, at the beginning of this journey, we want to stay a little bit away from defining things too precisely. So I've been working for the European Commission many years as an advisor, as an expert, helping to shape some of the innovation programs. And I think on one side, it's absolutely powerful that the president of the European Commission is coming up with this great vision and with this idea tackling Europe's most ambitious goal, which is the Green Deal. So making Europe climate neutral by 2050, coupling that with one of the biggest investment plan that we have seen in maybe 50 years, which is the Next Generation EU and the climate deal within that. We can remind that Europe is going to be investing 1.3 trillion into this overall package, and that 40% of this money will go to the green transition and 20% to the digital transition. And this is done with a European common debt. So there is a European common strategy with a direction that is common for all Europe. So it's a huge target. At the same time, it's pretty top down, right? And we don't want this movement to become a top-down bureaucratic type of thing that defines things in a kind of way that the European Commission knows how to do very well, right? In a kind of bureaucratic language. No, we want this to be a grassroots, diverse movement that brings together artists, engineers, technologists, the design schools, the art schools, economists, the environmental movement, the youth movement, students, cities and regions, industry, the technologies, the startups. I mean, really the kind of like our talent, our creative minds together, and also tap into the multitude of existing initiatives which are already making this vision real. So, for example, the first part, Helmut, just cut me off if you want to interact, because I don't know how long we have to speak. I'm Italian, so I tend to kind of like go, but I will close my first speech like now just by saying that I think it's important there is this bottom-up element. We want to talk to the citizens, we want to make democratic, and we want to tap into the bottom-up creativity of what's already there. The second point is this is not going to be one place. This, I think, in my vision at least, has to be a regional network. So it has to be a network of different connected spaces. So maybe different from the original Bauhaus that was centered in a few places, and really be this kind of backbone of the future sustainable, innovative, digital, and inclusive Europe. So with this vision, we're going to have to shape it together. And I think it's maybe good that it's not already there, but it has to be defined from the ground up.
Cool, Francesca. So thank you for giving this framework and also for showing so much energy, because I think that's also a part of the Bauhaus, is that we are active, we are energetic, and that we really push things forward. And you also said, it's not only a top-down initiative, but also a bottom-up initiative. And I think that's where myself and my ecosystem is coming in. So as Steffi already said, we are quite active here in Munich. We are building a very strong ecosystem. And as Francesca said, there's this urgency that there's so many challenges around with COVID-19, but also with digitalization, with the demographic change. And so there's a lot of pressure going on, but it's not, I think, only this pressure we all experience, but there are also great chances around. So I think it's also a time of opportunity now, and also a time for being optimistic. We see so many great technology around, like all the digital tools, like 3D printing, so like quantum computing. So there's so many new tools we have, so many new possibilities. So also methods how we want to work. Just remember, like agile working, or now with distributed teams, what we experience here in COVID-19. So that's what we have, big challenges, but also great opportunities. And so that's where now the Bauhaus movement comes in, and where we as the Munich ecosystem really love this idea to have this sustainable perspective, bring Europe together, be inclusive, think of all these creative and interdisciplinary aspects Europe has. And it's a very diverse continent with great people, with different ideas and concepts and competences. And our mission here in Munich is to, on one side, be part of this great European ecosystem, but also do our homework in Munich, and also help that the next generation of innovators, of creators, of entrepreneurs, of designers come together and work on these new solutions and really come up with new solutions. And I think this is, Steffi, you said, and thank you for the invitation, Steffi, you said we should be also critical. And I think a really critical point about Europe, and what we also have to solve with the Bauhaus movement, is to really get momentum and really realize these solutions and scale them and make Europe be more beautiful and more attractive.
And more known. I mean, I see Europe still as a big black hole. We, the three of us, we have an idea of Europe. We are well educated, we are traveling, whatever. But I have no idea of Bulgaria. I have no idea of what's going on in the south of Italy. We talked about it. I have no, from the 27 states of Europe, nations of Europe, I maybe know 10. And as long as there are so many black holes, I think it's very difficult to make the vision real. And I think we also are facing, our industry nations are facing a bold competition between the US and China, as you know. And I'm sure that there are many hot nests of innovations in Europe which we have no idea about. You know, or the investors, the arts people, the scientists are connected, but they are in their bubbles. I think we have to, it's our challenge to open up the nationality, the bubbles of certain nations. We have to, I've been in Romania at a tech conference, and there were so many American investors who immediately took the talent out of Romania, out of Cluj, and transferred them to the US. I think this is not good. We all have to know about Europe much more. We have to, Francesca.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say that I totally agree, because the 27 countries have such varieties of cultures, of histories, of political systems, and types of innovation, which I think it's this diversity of Europe, it's the strength of Europe. So you do not want to get to a point where you start having this uniform idea of what innovation should be looking like, but you want to be able to scale our potential. So we want to be able not only to say, okay, in the competition between the US and China, there is a third way, which is the European way to innovation, that is not only our regulatory power, that we know this is very strong. I say this all the time. Europe is not only there to say we can tax the companies, we can, protect your rights, we can increase competition. Europe is also there to compete on technological innovation, but based on who we are. So our, model of social economy, our culture, our design, our places, locations, what we produce,
values.
what we are good at, values, yes.
Yeah,
and
values.
that's, that means, this is a big challenge, Steffi, because this means that innovation is not just bigger, faster, and cheaper, but innovation should be also something else. And that's, I think, that is the big challenge of the European Bauhaus. But let me say one more thing. I think that it's pretty clear, as Helmut was saying, that the challenges are huge. We have to decarbonize our industries. We have a biodiversity crisis. We have to retrofit buildings. We have to make our cities greener and cleaner. We have to lessen the impact on concrete on the environment, shift to bioarchitecture. So many ideas we are already discussing in the new European Bauhaus roundtable. But I'm convinced that if we do not get to the actual people, to the young people, like these young people, this young generation of Europe, they study about the environment. They enroll in environmental study courses. They talk about sustainability. They know about sustainability and they protest for sustainability, but they don't know how they can bring those values into their daily life. How they can help their cities to go in a net zero strategy, how they can eliminate waste, what they can do collectively or in their daily life to be part of this movement. I think this is going to be an enormous challenge because it's tapping into people's imagination, but also making it real.
So
into
Steffi and
products.
Francesca,
I have an idea, and it has to do with you, Helmut. Helmut, Francesca, I don't know if you know, my audience, I don't know if you know that currently Helmut is building a fantastic pattern example for fostering creativity. And Helmut, I want to ask you, if the model of the Munich Urban Collab, you have to explain what it is valid maybe you should open an Cluj Urban Collab, a Sofia Urban Collab. What is this is a model to bring education, science, technology, arts together. Can you explain it in a minute, Helmut? What are you currently working on with the background of bringing so many unicorns into the reality? What is Munich Urban Collab? Please.
It's Steffi, the Munich Urban Collab is a place where people collaborate and really collaborate. And so this means that we have all the innovation people from the city in there, from large companies, from medium-sized companies, but also from academia. And what's for me most important, really the next generation of innovators. So all the young students. And so these people are on the same height, they respect each other, and they start to really innovate with each other. And so we provide the space, the tools, the processes, we have own programs, we have funding schemes, mainly also from the private side, not state money, but really private money. And then people really start to work together and work on solutions. And Steffi, you mentioned this great example that we have to know each other better. I think this is the first step, but I think what should be really the target for Europe is that we not only know each other, but that we collaborate with each other. And it's so fantastic. So this morning I had a team here, it's called Thebauhaus, and they built new robot systems. And the founding team is a real European team. So one of the founders is a female student from Greece, and the CTO is from Bulgaria. And I think this is Europe, that we really not only know each other, but that we work together and build teams and build the next generation. So Munich Urban Collab is a place where people come together and meet and really start the journey and build solutions. And it would be fantastic if we have this network of such places all over Europe to really also foster the exchange.
So Helmut, the Commissioner Maria Gabriel, when we've done our first high-level roundtable meeting, she talked about wanting to create, actually she defined it, a education for climate coalition, which goes very much in the direction of what you just said. So like all these places that are developing new teaching methodology, new pedagogical methods, new way to build things and to scale up innovation and put this into a network and connect to schools, which I think is a very important idea, very important thing to do, because also we do lack some of the basic digital skills, you know, to be able to thrive in this technological revolution. We also have a huge gender gap and a lot of socioeconomic divides that we need to bridge. So I think it's important that this new European Bauhaus is not seen as something elitist. Just pass me the word. I mean, it's not only about, you know, architects, designers, and, you know, artists making the world more beautiful, but it is really also going down to earth to understand how we solve the big environmental and social challenges of our times. How do we bring communities together? How do we talk to the underrepresented communities, which, you know, need to be at the center? How do we make this global, which also bring in other countries that are not Europe? For instance, some people in the high-level roundtable group are from India, from other countries, they bring different perspective. I think this is very important. This network vision that you have, Helmut, I think we need to bring this in, because if we make it an educational kind of tool, we can get into society. That is something we have to do. And probably Steffi knows this very well, but in my work as CTO of Barcelona, in my previous life, I used to really put, I mean, to say like, okay, smart cities have to be people first. And we experiment these large scale participatory movements in everything we were doing in the city to get people involved in decision making and to get people involved in the solutions that we prototype. And I think cities are going to be a very critical point of this network, because, I mean, think about, you know, if you are doing, I don't know, prototyping some AI tools for mobility, and you want to see what is the future for mobility, you're going to use the city as a kind of test bed to experiment electric, connected, and green mobility. If you want to see, you know, some kind of new urban gardening and some recycling, prototyping, experimental thing, you're gonna do it in city. Cities is at the frontier. Cities are at the frontier in tackling the climate crisis and so on. So I think we need to use the cities, which means also citizens, but it's broader than that. It's network of universities and industry and stakeholders, the makers, the startups, the public administration, as a laboratory for sustainable and democratic innovation. So bring the cities in and do the kind of things that you're doing in Munich, but multiply that. And then, Steffi, I think the interesting thing is going to be, I mean, for me, for example, one big question, I'm now running the National Italian Innovation Fund. We have 1.5 billion euros to invest in startup. Compared to other countries like Germany and France, is not much yet, but still for Italy, it's a very big leap, it's a very big change. And and of course, this approach of arts-driven innovation, which we are trying to see what it means, but let's say creative agency into innovation. So what it means when you are experimenting with quantum technology or with, you said AI, or even with some biotech, and you are bringing in the industry, in the company, the artist, the designer, the creative in a residency, or even just working with you to imagine, I mean, to break some boundaries, as you said, multidisciplinarity, but to imagine where this technology is going to lead us. So to imagine the future, I think is a new type of tech transfer, of technology transfer, which is bringing in the artists and is bringing in this cultural dimension. I don't think this is only cultural. I think this can change our economy, our industry, the way we do innovation. So I also want to see if we get more investment into this kind of places. If we can, prototype these new Bauhaus centers as new tech transfer methodology, where we can draw investments and have the startups and the industry collaborate really with the artists and the designers and the creative people.
Francesca, I have a question for you. Do you like the name Bauhaus? If
No,
I think
actually, yeah.
I think of beton. Also, what's the English word for for this concrete and heavy architectures of the 50s, small apartments, bunkers.
No, we have discussed this many times. I mean, now we actually have discussed it even in the group of ambassadors, let's say, which actually is a diverse group of people. It's very interesting because you have the architects, as you said before. You have like Bjarke, you have Olafur, like the artist, you have the economist, you have activists like climate activists, young climate activists. And I mean, it's very diverse and it's very interesting to have this conversation like that. And we said maybe we should call it the NEB, just to have different type of, which is like there is Europe, there is the environment, there are other things that you can bring into the picture. And I think it has to go beyond also that imagination of the Bauhaus.
So
yes, I mean, for example,
the
with
European laboratory Wunderkammer or whatever, alchemist Wunderkammer,
like imagine with in the FAZ, we had a conversation with Niklas Mack in FAZ, and he suggested, he was like, but let's don't use that metaphor. Let's look, for example, at the new Centre Pompidou. He was saying we need a Centre Pompidou for the digital and green age. Something like that. And it has to be a building, a space where this imagination can thrive.
Mentioning the Centre Pompidou which was the amazing miracle of the architectural miracle of the 70s in the last century. I think Europe needs role models. It's really role models. It needs an optimistic narrative. Coming back to your collab, I don't say Munich urban collab. I say urban collab because it's a model for me. We should promote it as a role model for creativity, for getting things done, for collaboration. I think we have to. Yeah, I know digitalization, green, everything says, but it's connotated with work, with angst, with difficulties. We have to get into an optimistic narrative. We have to say, if we get the climate change, the world will be beautiful again. Something like this. I'm not from the young generation, as you can see, but I'm an optimistic person, and I want to get this young generation optimistic towards Europe. And
Steffi, I think in at our university, our university TUM has about 45,000 students, and about a third are really interested in entrepreneurship. And so if you talk to the young generation, there's so much optimism and there's so much energy. And I think and I think our job is to give them a great environment and enable them. And so I think where we as Europeans can be really make a leap forward and be much better is to really build an ecosystem, an optimal ecosystem for these young people to use their talent, to use this energy and come up with these great solutions. And I think if you look at Europe right now, I don't see that. I see only a few places, and these are like DTU in Copenhagen, or KTH in Stockholm, or Aalto, for example, or our university in Munich, or maybe ETH, where really these young people are really fostered in a really great way. But this should be common sense in Europe. And if we say, okay, our people are our greatest resource, so let's really work with them and respect them and enable them to come up with these great solutions. Because our duty, I think, is to help them to solve the problems. We, in our generation, we can't solve every problem, but we can prepare the next generation to really do also a great job and solve the problems. And I think this generation is full of energy, full of great ideas, of optimism, and if we let them do and give them a great environment, I think they will succeed. And maybe Francesca, on the negative side, I think where we really also have to get better is to be more pragmatic. So you are talking now of 1.5 billion euros you have for Italy. So our ecosystem, our startups attract per year over 1 billion. So only mainly private money, okay? And it's because there are many entrepreneurs and investors out there and family offices who believe in the ideas, believe in the next generation. So we have to attract these people and these investors from Europe, from the world, and show them the great young teams, and then build the bridges so they can invest. And it's good to have state money in the game. And I think also the EU grants and everything, but this should be only a little bit of the oil in the machine, but not more. And we need this private and broad.
Yes,
exactly.
no, absolutely. I actually want to say a couple of things. So on the network, what we need. As Helmut, I think, as you rightly say, the research centers, the kind of university research center labs is an important starting point, but also it should be merged, for instance, with places like the Centre Pompidou, like Arts Electronica, like ZKM, like Luma Foundation, like Triennale, like Maxi Museum, like our cultural centers, which are amazing. The foundations, many foundations in Europe. Oh, we have the dog. Usually we have kids coming in, like she has the dog. So we have the Triennale, the Venice Biennale, the kind of Maxi Museum in Italy, and the banking foundations. They are all involved into investing in this kind of arts-driven technological and scientific innovation. So we need to bring these cultural places, also public cultural spaces, in the mix. It is a very important addition. Like the Luma Foundation space is amazing, where they have a Luma, lab where they prototype new materials, new methods. They work with the community. This kind of ideas that we are working on in the European Starts network is very strong network. And this has to go together with the research centers and the more kind of scientific research spaces in Europe. And then adding the cities. Because, for example, as I said also before, Barcelona is a laboratory for this kind of things. I mean, we have like the Architectural Center of Catalonia, the Fab City movement, the GSMA organizing the World Mobile Congress. We have a laboratory of, creative spaces of innovation all around the city. We are prototyping technologies. I mean, it's an incredible hub for these things to happen. And that's what's attracting the young people. Innovative ideas, the things we are discussing, bringing forests into the cities. So not nature. So the right to nature, it's not only going to be going in the countryside. It's this new idea also Rem Koolhaas talks about, not only smart cities, but smart countrysides. And Stefano Boeri says, we're going to build archipelagos of connected spaces and bringing forests into the urban centers. So really rethinking the way we live. The right to nature should be a right for all humans. The right to data. I mean, we have to innovate these concepts, and then we want the creative minds to build on top of that new processes, new methods, new products, new services. And then I want to just get to the finance point. I think Europe now is doing a leap. We have to believe it. I mean, it is the moment for, I think, the European way, because, for instance, in VC, we are just investing this money, also public money, but attracting private capital, as you're saying, not only from Europe, but also from abroad. The European Commission has just created the first venture capital fund run by the European Innovation Council. Is 9 billion. I think it's a lot. I mean, it's a good amount of money, together with the European Investment Fund and European Investment Bank. It's going to leverage more money. And this is part of the big Next Generation EU, which we should celebrate as a real historical, I think, moment to get us out of the crisis and regenerate our economy. So I think this is the moment. And we need to make sure that these radical but forward-looking innovative ideas make it, that we are there to push this and to push these methodologies like the one you're prototyping in Munich, with a vision or where we want to get, with the direction of like what is the model that we're building for Europe. I think this is what this European, we want to change the name, right? We want to change the name.
Yes, we want to change names. I like laboratory. Let's do the European leapfrog.
The European leapfrog.
I think we are, if it comes true, what we are talking about right now, it will be a bright, wonderful future, full of inclusiveness, full of creativity, full of beautiness, which is an important part. But as you mentioned, the cities, there were no Sofia, there were no Bucharest, there were no Warsaw. We have an eastern part of Europe which lags behind. And I'm really convinced that we have to do kind of an innovation tour where we go to these cities, to these unknown cities, unknown countries, to trigger them. Because if you think about who are the programmers in the US, there are a lot of Romanians, a lot of Serbians, a lot of
with great STEM skills.
Yes, but they leave Europe in order to make more money somewhere else. So we have to really focus on the talents in this European country, and we have to give them an opportunity to stay in their country and to invent new things and to do the quantum leap we need in Europe. And therefore, again, I think we have to really count on role models. We have to count on new narratives. We have to music. Music is such an unifying element. I didn't hear anything about a new European music scene. We should trigger them. We should trigger a new press narrative. If you read European papers or even the newsletter, I subscribed to 10 to 12 European newsletters. Either they are greedy, they say, oh, this startup gets more money and they are only talking about money and funding, but not about the bigger picture, or they are very small focused. So I think there's a lot to do, and we have to find the people who are doing it, who are getting really into the action. And as you know, I'm preaching a little bit. We are doing from DLD, we want to travel Europe and define the hotbeds of innovation. Where are the good things the interesting things in Sofia, whatever. And I will let you know.
Well, we can say that we candidate as Italy, the Italian South. So we're going to start in Puglia. In Bari.
Yes, we do.
It's amazing. And you will be thrilled. To discover the type of innovation also linked to food, linked to energy, aerospace, like robotics. So many things are happening there in the south, and really interesting, and very Italian.
We take Helmut with us. We take the role models of Finnish startups. We have to do the interconnectivity. I would love to take Daniel Wiegand from Lilium, who is from Munich, who is going to open a SPAC and doing an IPO with the first German SPAC in America. We take him to Bari, and he should tell his story. And then we ask him to go with us to Porto or wherever. I think it's important that we do this kind of things.
Exactly. These are great examples. So for Lilium or also ESA Aerospace, all these high-tech companies, they are already totally European. So if you look at their teams, so they have 30 or 40 nationalities in their teams, and they come all over Europe or even the world. And I think we have to build these European champions and really, on one side, think about this broad base, but also build up these lighthouses and really great European new companies which are really successful, really scale, and be really also the new leaders from the world market in these fields. And this, I think, is so important also to be competitive, stay competitive, and also be on a technological field autonomous, also in comparison to the US and China. So I think we really have to collaborate on this European level and build all these great companies in all our nations all over Europe.
No, absolutely. I mean, this is a topic I'm really passionate about, because this strategic autonomy or sovereignty of Europe in technology also would mean that we can be that we can have sovereignty which is political and economic, and is something that absolutely we need to do, because this digital humanism that Europe can offer to the world, I think, is also a global vision. So, for example, I do not believe we have to get into a Cold War kind of mentality, yes, of like decoupling, which also is a bit troubling in supply chain and in the redefinition of the global economy. But actually, for the digital world, we do need. I mean, it's too interconnected, and we do need to set democratically agreed standards. And I think on that front, Europe is doing super well. I mean, we're like proposing. Like we are the first continent that is proposing the new constitution for the digital age, which is about people first. So we are starting from fundamental rights and from our values, and we are building a possible constitution with standards and with a technological world that's gonna benefit people and the environment. So we should stress this more. I think I feel all the time the narrative is we are lagging behind because we don't have the companies, we don't have the champions. Fine, let's try to invest more and have technologies which is made in Europe, in the frontier, in the strategic value chain of the future, which actually is to build this environmental transition, electric batteries, hydrogen, renewable energy, AI, quantum computing, data, and so on, and microprocessors, getting back that knowledge in Europe. Biotech, exactly. And but let's strengthen that. Also, let's emphasize the fact that we are still Europe. I mean, we have a social market economy, we have a strong social model, we have a strong foundation to build a more inclusive and democratic future. And really, let's make this a strength. Let's be a leader into defining that.
It's so nice said, Francesca. It's so nice said. It's easy said, as you can imagine.
But it's not easy to do. It's not easy to do, because we have constructed Europe over time. Political Europe, it hasn't been easy to make. And it is difficult to get here, to get our rights, environmental, labor, gender. I mean, this is not easy. So
it's only
yeah.
easy said. But what makes you sleepless in this bunch of not easiness? There are so many things, but what is the first thing, Helmut and Francesca, you would change immediately? What are you working on?
No, I've already said, because I mean, I've been obsessed with this, like Europe becoming a digital colony. So, all my work in the last years in Barcelona was like, we're going to build an alternative at a city scale where we empower citizens. So we work a lot on democratic participation and empowerment through digital technologies as well. And we frame the whole questions around data, giving back democratic control to people, and say, okay, data can really be a common good on top of which we want to build the innovation of the future. So we have created a kind of prototype, and also digital rights, and like a kind of prototype for future cities, which are sustainable, green, and digital, and more feminist, I would say.
But what are you doing? what are you doing if you go to Poland?
Not that well.
They say go away with your democratic ideas.
They don't, because in Poland the feminist movement now is super strong.
Yeah,
it
true.
is super strong. They've been in the streets, they've been demonstrating. They need our support actually for those kind of rights-based, values and things. There are so many young Polish people that are looking at what we do, and they want to get involved. So I'm sure maybe not easy to deal with the government, but definitely involving communities and groups and people and innovators in Poland.
What makes you sleepless? What is your first step in order to get rid of sleeplessness, if there is any?
So I think there are so many great opportunities and so many great people always coming in. So we have thousands of great talents every year. So in our programs, and so we have every week another great company evolving. So I'm constantly sleepless, but I'm happy with that. And so, but what keeps me running and energized is to see these people and help these people really be successful, and to come up with other new great companies like ESA Aerospace and Celonis, you name them. And Steffi, also the second point, what you mentioned with this European roadshow, I think this is extremely important, and I think we should all engage more in that to really be better bridge builders in Europe to these ecosystems. And I think this is a great task we should put on our list, that we build these bridges and find these friends, or build even stronger relationships to our friends at Aalto or DTU or Milano, and then help each other to build great local ecosystems, but then connect these local ecosystems Europe-wide and build great European teams. So this is then what keeps me up for the next 10 years.
And I mean, if Steffi, if we can be maybe realistic, because at the moment, obviously, talking about this can seem a bit detached from people's life, because obviously we do have the urgency of getting vaccinated, everybody, to get out as soon as possible from this pandemic. And we know that the social and economic situation is very difficult. So when we think about companies and businesses, I mean, we are aware and we are very realistic with the situation. I mean, it's probably going to be 1/3 of the working places that are going to be kept. So at the moment, really, people are surviving because the government is bailing them and is putting in the economy a lot of money. There is going to be very strong industry restructuring to be doing, where this transformation towards digital and ecological transformation is going to be very important, but can be painful. So we need also to set up this network of solidarity and, investing in education, in skills, in retraining, and building this very strong societal backbone with, public health care and stronger cities and communities. I mean, I think we also need to do that because it's going to be a difficult time.
Absolutely, Francesca, but we shouldn't wait to innovate, because
that's part of the game.
Yeah, and I'm really happy what happened despite COVID-19, that people continued being innovative and used all the digital tools, and now we have seen great Europeans coming up, even people haven't met physically, but have met over the platforms and form teams, build prototypes together. And I think that's also a new reality, and we should keep this pace up. And so I'm really astonished that in our ecosystem we could we had the same number of startups even with COVID, and so we got even more venture capital in the ecosystem, so over $1 billion at the beginning of COVID-19, I thought, okay, now everybody is shutting down, but this didn't happen, and we as Europeans should be active and keep the pace.
Helmut, I have a question for you. You are so familiar with and you, Francesca, as well, with the characters and personalities of European entrepreneurs. What's the difference of an American Silicon Valley entrepreneur and an European entrepreneur who wants to invent the world in a new way?
Shall I, Francesca?
Yeah, I leave this to you.
So I think the Europeans are more like the details and are great engineers and natural scientists, and so we love the details and work on our projects in our labs, whereas our American friends also have great ideas, are clever people, but they go out not after 2 years out of the lab, but maybe after 2 weeks, and so they are much better salesmen and also often are much better to sell this great large vision. And I think we Europeans, we have so many great ideas, we have so much competence, and so there's so many opportunities, and let's be more bold. Let's also communicate this great vision more open and more actively, and have the energy to go the next step, and then I think we will be successful.
I've been contacted by many entrepreneurs, European entrepreneurs, Italian, but not only, that were in the US, for example, or abroad to realize their projects. And when they knew that we were starting the Italian Innovation Fund and we were putting out investment money, but also that we had the vision and the possibility, they contacted me back saying, we would like to actually, we want to have more diversity in the innovation ecosystem. We think it's a bit crazy that all the new products and things get decided here in Silicon Valley with like this view of the world. Of course, now Asia, it's challenging that, but the idea that they had was more like reconnecting it to the culture, to the land, to the place, creating these new spaces as we're talking about, where they could expand their ideas and provide a platform with investment, but also with the ideas to prototype, make it real, get access to the network in order to, help you to set up your startup, to try it out. So they were basically very eager to do it in Europe. So I think actually there is this thing that when people are going abroad, but they're going abroad because they find it easier somehow to tap into the network and just do it and scale it. And I think we have the possibility to get back a lot of these brilliant minds, a lot of these talented people, if we create the conditions to do it here.
This is a wonderful last word. If we create the conditions. So let's make the if true. Helmut, what is your wish concerning the if?
And so also not only that our entrepreneurs improve, but also all the stakeholders on the other side. So all the investors, all the supporters, all the suppliers, all the customers, and
the media.
In the media, yeah.
The media.
And also they should be more open and more supportive. And just a little story. So there's so many German companies who love to go to Silicon Valley, and they're always amazed how great the Silicon Valley startups are. And then they come back, and there are also these great European companies. And sometimes actually the so-called Silicon Valley companies are German or Finnish companies, okay? And so they're so the German companies are many times much more open if they have a Silicon Valley company in front of them than a European company. And so please be also more open for our own children.
Yeah. But I mean, we also, I was reading, I want to say something. Do I have it here? Yeah. I mean, can I make some advertising?
Yeah, sure. Definitely.
I'm reading this very, very great book. Can you see The Economics of Belonging?
Economics of
Martin Sambu.
Belonging.
Yes,
cool.
The FT, yeah. And basically, there is also a question of trying to make our economy, trying to shift to this economy of belongings, where we make the economy work for the people, that people feel somehow that they're part of it, that it delivers value to them. And obviously we have big fixes. I mean, the book talks about Roosevelt's in the 20s, the democratic experimentalism, so the big macroeconomic reforms, but also how do we make innovation happens from the ground up in order to change things and create less polarization, because we do not want to fuel populism again. I mean, let's don't forget that if people feel they are not part of this economy, they are, disenfranchised, they don't belong, they don't get good jobs, they don't get their place in society. Yeah. We can have nationalism and populism again, so we have to move away from that kind of narrative. And I think, just to end with a positive note, we can turn things around for the better, I think. And the new European Bauhaus, or however we want to call it, should be about how it can be done. So it should be a way to do it. This is the the how it can be done. Yes.
It's on the how. It's on the how, and I'm looking forward to the next steps of the hows. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This was a wonderful DLD Sync conversation, and I hope that won't be the last. I hope we will have many more conversations. We will be the preachers, the evangelists of the house in Europe, and I'm looking forward sitting with you in 5 years and do a, we made it. We did it. It's the beginning of worth doing it.
I mean for the innovation tour. Yeah.
Super.
By the way.
Super.
Yeah.
I love you. See you soon.
Ciao.
Thank you so much.
Ciao, Steffi.
Have a nice Easter.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao. Bye.
Yeah, nice Easter to you. Buona Pasqua.
Ciao.
Bye bye.